In today's video, I want to bring you on a journey through the wonderful world of automation and how I and you and anyone else can utilize automation to more effectively improve their workflows. Now, for example, I make videos on the internet, but I also record this fancy little thing called The Productive Brew, which is my podcast. My name is Dimitri, and I'm a productivity and systems enthusiast.
I'm Chance. I'm a philosophy and self-development enthusiast.
And you're listening to the Rise Productive Podcast,
the show where productivity meets business
and what it means to build better systems. Now grab a mug and join us
for The Productive Brew.
On my podcast, what I record is something that is very much in line with my values. I talk about self-help, productivity, and how people can grow a better business through more intentional processes. Now, in this podcast, I also have a short form version called The Productive Brew, where I break down different contents into small snippets that I then turn into a newsletter. Now, for you might be like, all right, this guy posts a lot of content. Truth of the matter is, I don't post that much if you factor in how much I automate. So first and foremost, when I sit down in front of this camera, it's a podcast, no need for a camera. When I sit down in front of this microphone, outside of the fact that my voice can sound soothing, I know that some people just digest things better through reading, so I figured I would repurpose that into a newsletter. Now with Make.com, which is the sponsor of this video, I've actually created a workflow where when I sit down in front of the microphone, it automatically turns it into a newsletter that I can be proud about. Let's get started, shall we? So if I go here, what you'll see here is pretty interesting. This is an automation that is connected to a software called Trint.com. On Trint.com, what you get is the ability to take different pieces of content and automatically transcribe them. Now, when I render a piece of content like my Productive Brew into a folder inside of my Google Drive, I'll basically put it into this rendered episodes for QA folder and then the Productive Brew. Now, when this gets finished, what automatically happens is it will capture a transcription, and then from there it will get the text from the transcription and then go to various pieces of content that I have. So for example, I have it for my main podcast, I have it for my Productive Brew, and what this does is this takes the audio and will actually bring a transcription of this into Notion, which is followed by a Slack message that I have that says to my team, a transcript was successfully created for the name of the episode. And then following that, here is the ultimate repurposing template. So essentially what this then does is I have it set up so that if we go to an example Productive Brew, you can see that there's a section in my outlines for the podcast outline, but as well as the transcription. So this transcription is literally what I said in the Productive Brew. Now here, this is the next step in the automation where every hour it will check as to whether the new transcription was made, because moving forward with that, it will then say, okay, if we have a Productive Brew transcription somewhere, it will then list out the page contents, then create a campaign in MailChimp that has the same name as the Productive Brew in the podcast from Notion. It will then create a newsletter entity within Notion that matches it. And in my Notion, I have it very easily connected to a repurpose into page where you can see that the draft is automatically made. That's right, everything you just saw was automated. Because after it creates the MailChimp, it then turns and creates a podcast description and then has an automated newsletter post that then goes through and sends a message to Slack saying, hey, you might want to add it to MailChimp. And then it unchecks the create me checkbox that by default was created when the transcription was made. And even cooler, when I click on this, it will automatically send me to the newsletter in MailChimp. So let's take a step back and realize everything. All I did was sit down in front of a microphone, press record, and then from there, I uploaded it to Google Drive. It made all the different entities needed in Notion, in MailChimp, for my podcast, my newsletter, and rather than me needing to take that transcription or just listen to myself talk and rewrite it out, I was able to take a concept that I came up with completely off the cuff. When you look at this email, it's pretty solid, because ChatGPT does a good job. So what I end up doing, obviously, is I do tweak this a little bit. I don't absolutely just have this be the final draft. I did tweak it slightly beforehand. I added affiliate links where it made sense, and then I referred to the podcast version of the brew in here. But I have managed to, and this is gonna be proof, so get ready for this. Due to this amazing workflow with Make.com, I actually have somebody who helps me out with this, a buddy of mine that ends up editing the newsletters and podcasts, and I have these scheduled out through January 8th of 2024. The time of recording this video is July 3rd, and no, this is not an exaggeration when I say this was scheduled a while ago. I believe this was created over a month ago, and I've had this in the pipeline because it's just so much easier to batch create content. And using automation nowadays and things like make.com that can, this looks complicated, but at the end of the day, I'm just trying to show you what's possible. You can make more content than you'd ever imagine through very little costs. Make.com, extremely cheap for what it gives you, and OpenAI also gives you really good prices, in my opinion, on producing content. The key thing is to know that I inputted original thought and references, and then it took that and crafted a story around it in a text format that was very digestible. If you want to know what the prompt is, I will just give it to you right now. Essentially, you're telling the bot that it becomes a story engine, and this AI bot is going to help people like me, some productivity influencers, with crafting unique and captivating posts about their success and experiences. And then I request that it writes about a 2,000-word blog post rather than a newsletter. It understands blog posts a little bit better in the context I'm giving it. And then I tell it what to focus on, struggle through the issues of the topic, what ultimately leads for the audience to have time and save money. And I also tell it what not to do. Like, don't say once upon a time, don't use hashtags, don't be ridiculous. This is the kind of thing you can do with automation. And this is the kind of thing you can do with make.com. So if you're interested in checking out make.com, please make sure to use the link down below. And make sure to check out other videos like this one on how to improve your productivity even more.